Okay, so we are recording. I think so.
We are.
Okay. So welcome
Yes. Yeah.
everyone. We're on another call of Empowered Wholeness, and I'm here with Sandra.
Hello.
And
Hello.
and we're talking today about detoxing cleansing, which actually ties in well with what we've been doing this week, because we have just finished another week of the Breathe, Align and Shine program, and we were working with the solar plexus and the color yellow, which actually is what supports cleansing and detoxing. Because you think of the solar plexus, it's all about digestion. It assists with the lymphatic drainage of our body, assists with cleansing toxins as well. So we're very much present with the subject, aren't we, today?
Oh, yes, yes. And very interestingly, we ran a group last night where we were working on the solar plexus, and I know that there's emotional things that I'm detoxing today on a physical level. So it's really showing up. So it's very
Yeah.
timely call.
But I suppose I'll start talking about the obvious aspect of detoxing, the physical aspect, because that's the element that I kind of bring into these calls more, the physical aspect of wellness. And I've gone on a whole journey myself with detoxing cleansing. Again, very intuitively, been very guided along the way. But really, it comes down to our liver, because our livers are what gets so congested. And our liver is responsible for all the detoxing of our body. It's responsible for cleansing hormones for our body, for processing, for distributing and maintaining the body's energy. So our livers are a really important organ of our body, and they're the ones that our liver is what toxins are moving through to keep our body going. And our livers get so congested with stones. So our liver has bile, cholesterol, and they all form into these stones, which then can get they block the ducts, which then are released into. So if the ducts are blocked, then it's not able to move that bile through our body and the toxins, if that's making sense. So I'm very bad at the science aspect of it, but just intuitively, this is the journey that I've been on with my liver. And I actually started my detox and cleansing journey just with diet, really, and just with the physical aspects of our environment and what we're doing, because cleansing is also about what we're around in our environment. You know, if we're using plastics, what chemicals we're taking in with products. So the usual thing that people first go on, they're like, I'm going to have clean beauty products, I'm going to start using all house products that are as plant-based as possible, because we do live in a world where we're full of chemicals and toxins that we can't actually really avoid. So we even more now have to take the conscious choices of what we're doing. And then you look at diet as well. You know, as we know, the foods that we're eating, it doesn't have the same minerals and nutrients that it has, but also it's full of toxins. You know, even fruit and vegetables that we're eating, if we're not picking the right ones, it definitely contributes to that. And then you think of our liver, that's responsible for cleansing all those toxins for us. If that's not working, and then we're pumping more toxins and chemicals in our body from just not picking the right foods, from not having the right products that we're using on our body, all those things, it can really just congest our liver, and it can manifest in so many different ways, so many different health issues. And so it could be with your skin, it could be fatigue, it could be with your weight, it can be with, for me, it was digestive problems, menstrual problems and hormonal problems. They were the three things that then catapulted me to going, okay, I really need to sort this out, because I was really suffering with those elements. And I suppose I'll talk a little bit about the cleanse that I do and I really recommend. And I know that a spiritual teacher who I follow, which I really love, she was a medical medium at one point, so she can actually see the energetics of different things in the body. And she said this is the one cleanse that really reverses all these things. But I started before my cleanse, just things what you're eating as well are really good, but also colonics are amazing. Colonics are really, really good. But if you want to take that a step further, then liver and gallbladder cleanse is really incredible. And I know I spoke to you, Sandra, about this quite a lot, but it really is, it's quite an extreme cleanse to do. But what it does, it's the only way to actually force those stones out of your liver and gallbladder. And so you go on a really clean plant-based diet, which, as we know, assists with that anyway. And then you're drinking apple juice and apple cider vinegar for a week, which helps to soften the stones. And actually, I recommend drinking apple cider vinegar a little bit in lemon water every day. That really assists with cleansing the liver. But to do this cleanse, yeah, you do that. And then you're actually drinking Epsom salts on the 6th day to assist with like everything relaxing so those stones can pass through. And then you drink olive oil and grapefruit juice and you down that, you go to sleep. The next day, you're flushing all of those stones. And mine were actually huge. It was insane when I saw it, because I was guided to do this cleanse. And when I done it, Tom was the first person I'd done it with, my partner, who had like the tiny stones. I was like, oh, okay, this is not even like a big deal. But mine were, no joke, like that big, huge. So no wonder I was having so many issues with my gut, my hormones, my menstrual cycle, because as well as women, we have the contraceptive pill. So you have all those fake hormones that are being pumped into your body. I'm genetically more estrogen dominant as well. So that contributes to the cholesterol being built up into your liver. And so that's why I think it all contributed to my stones being so big. And I really feel like if I left that much longer, I might have had so many issues that my gallbladder might have had to be removed, or it could have manifested in more health issues. So so lucky that I was guided to do that cleanse, and I noticed huge differences after with my health. Just like everything became so much easier, because we can do all these physical things of just changing our diet, the products, but actually sometimes intuitively knowing, does your body need something deeper to actually cleanse and then restart? And I feel like I've been talking there a while now, so I know we've been talking about this cleanse before. Yeah.
It's really interesting, because what you're talking about just there is about the fact that you knew that you ultimately would have had some more serious health issues, which is exactly what happened to me, because this is a question that Jade and I have been talking about, is because I actually did have my gallbladder removed, because I did have some really huge stones in my gallbladder, and I wish I'd known about that liver cleanse, because I could have really stopped myself having to have the operation. So and it's interesting, because we talk about the fact that we have all of these sort of physical contributors to stones, to the toxins that build in our body. We've also got the emotional and the spiritual, the energetic attributes to that as well, because trauma will start to bring up these sort of situations in our bodies. So the toxins start to build in our bodies because of trauma, because we're holding on to these toxic emotions in various different parts of our body. And so, for example, if we're under a lot of stress, we have a lot of cortisol running through our bodies, which is going to build up toxins that we then can't release. So it's also energetic as well as physical. So it's the physical things that we're putting in, but it has exactly the same physical impact on us, whether it's spiritual, energetic, or the actual physical things we're putting in on our skin or in our bodies. So but the end result is the same. We have physical symptoms because our physical body is the filter for our whole experience, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, spiritual, it doesn't matter. It all filters through our bodies. So there's also the energetic parts to the cleanse. It's still going to be a physical experience. Last night, Jade and I ran an event which was all about the solar plexus. And this morning, I've woken up with some very physical symptoms of detoxing. But I know that what I'm clearing is actually an energetic and an emotional issue that came up last night. And it's because I recognized it and observed it. It's now starting to physically filter through my physical body. So it's fascinating how this is also interlinked.
And at the time as well, I didn't even think of it being energetic at all, but obviously I experienced so much trauma and stress growing up. That was my state of being, and that's why anxiety as well. So when I went on that cleanse, anxiety was the emotional symptom, and my body started shouting at me through that. But it's the things that, you know, so say like stones in our liver, I think even with scans they can't even detect that actually what's going on with your liver. So, you know, it starts to manifest more physically, and that's why, you know, anxiety, whatever you're feeling in your body, really shows you where you're at. And then you can look at that aspect and the emotional side, but then actually what's happening to your body on a deeper physical level, those things can be a bit more undetected. That's why we probably don't do these cleanses, and we don't eat as well, and we don't all do these things, because we think we can kind of just get away with it and our body will just keep going, and we'll just keep on going. But it depends, you know, do you want to be feeling your best? And with me, that was always my aim, just to feel so good in my body. I hate the feeling of just, you know, not being able to eat properly, just feeling low energy, feeling fatigued. The hormonal imbalances were so extreme. I was so emotional. And so, yeah, I always use that as an indication to go, okay, well, I actually want to feel this. What do I need to get there? And, you know, I as well, when I talk to people about cleanses, I don't want it to seem like a really big chore and a big task to do. It's, again, all those daily things that you're doing that can assist. So, you know, even starting your day with lemon water, sometimes with a bit of apple cider vinegar, the effect that has on your body is actually so huge, rather than starting your day with a coffee and like a croissant. You know, it's these tiny things that will assist. And so when we talk about cleansing, like even this liver and gallbladder one, and if you don't have a gallbladder, you can do a deeper cleanse of the liver through celery juice, changing your diet. You know, we've talked about that there's a few supplements and things you can take to assist with that. But really then, like, that's a very short thing, but it's the long-term things. It's what you're going to do for the rest of your life, like every day, you know, even things like to assist with that cleansing and detoxing, moving your body. Are you sweating? You know, massaging, like to assist with lymphatic drainage. Are we actually touching our body and assisting that moving through our body? Having salt baths to assist with that detoxing. You know, lymphatic drainage is a big thing, but actually also mention on that detoxing our body through breathing. I've been telling people about this fact lately that I forgot about myself, was that our lungs, they expel 70% of toxins from our body just through breathing fully into our lungs, which is actually really insane. It's only 30%, that's through the lymphatic drainage. So you think even connecting to your breath and breathing properly, how much that's going to assist with that detoxing and cleansing. And then there's just like those other things you can do to assist the lymphatic drainage, like trampolining. So good to trampoline. That really assists with that. Dry brushing, I love to dry brush. That will help. And exercising, and it's the kind of small things that you can introduce into your life that will really assist with that process. It's just being in tune with where you are right now. Yeah, what's going on with your body? How is it manifesting energetically and emotionally?
And it builds up over time, so that it creeps up on you without you realizing. And I think it's the combination. If we think back through most of our lives, there's so many combinations of bad diet, trauma, difficult situations, working, sitting down all day behind a desk. All those different things have such an accumulative effect on what toxins we're holding in our body, not drinking enough water, all of those sort of things, and making sure that the water that we're drinking is good quality water, rather than drinking that water straight out of the tap, where goodness knows what other toxins you're actually putting in to your body. So you might be drinking loads of water, but if you're drinking tap water, yes, it's having some sort of an effect on one level, but probably creating another problem on another level. So all of those things are so important. And from the energetic side of this, so much of what we hold in our body is trauma related, and it's not something that notices immediately. It's over time that it starts to build up. So we can think that we're fine and start to have then these symptoms, and then realize that, and we can look at it and go, well, where does that come from? I've never done any things that you might consciously think of from a physical level that would create a certain situation. But a lot of trauma creates so many negative impacts on your body. So the emotional side of it is so important. And so this can really show up with where if you're feeling an emotion, you're feeling something that's really coming up, it's be present with that emotion and allow it to work through you without going back into the trauma of the emotion. Because what I really feel is that when we observe it and we let it go, and we don't hold on to the story of that particular emotion and what it's bringing up in us, it enables our body to just let it to go through. And when it actually goes through you, it can release it. And so then we have those detoxes on an energetic level, which, as I said earlier, actually filter through the physical body anyway, like a physical detox. But you're clearing so much, and so it's having to look at all of this in as a whole picture rather than just looking at the physical. We have to also be aware of our emotions and what that's showing us, so that we can clear that on an energetic level as well.
Yeah, and it's all connected. That's why all of our work, and all my work since I've started helping others, it's been from the mind, body, soul lens, because they're all connected. You think of, even if you're holding that trauma and you're in those emotions, anxiety, fear, those more denser emotions that probably have been with you a long time, the resonance of that, you are then wanting to eat the bad food, not move your body. It's like wherever you're existing, even emotionally, that frequency, you're then attracting those things in your life. And that's why the wonderful thing, when you start to work on things on an energetic and emotional level, you'll actually start to want to eat better. You'll start thinking about foods like, I want to eat more living foods that aren't so processed. I want to have more clean beauty products and things in my house. And so they kind of feed into each other. And then obviously when you start doing those things, you start clearing those emotions with it. When you go through a cleanse as well, you are going through that energetic and emotional cleanse at the same time. So that's why it can feel really extreme. But as humans, I think a lot of us love extreme experiences. We do it all the time. And
Validation that something's happening. I think when we want the extreme experience, because then it actually gives us the feedback that something positive is happening, and it might be negative whilst experiencing it, but there's a comfort in that of validation. So yeah, and I completely agree with you that when I'm going through those things, I want to feel what it is that's going on, and even if it's uncomfortable, it just helps us to know that it's worthwhile, and it's something that actually helps us to work through it and not just give up, because we know that if we know that something's uncomfortable, we also know it's working. So it just helps us to have that assistance. It just assists with all of that understanding.
yeah. And as always, though, being so in tune with yourself and knowing that you're not taking anything to the extreme. As we speak about most calls, it's there's always an extreme level you can do these things where it then becomes it's not helping you, it's having the reverse effect. So even with these cleanses, and I was in that state of trying to eat as clean as possible, like super clean, but actually it was causing me a lot of stress and put my body in more states of stress because I wasn't eating as much as I needed to eat. So really knowing that how you're feeling while you're doing it has to feel, you need to feel good while you're doing it. You need to feel like it's actually serving you rather than you're punishing yourself in some way, because obviously that's going to then contribute to your emotions, negative emotions that you're carrying around it, and the stress that you're putting on your body. So another thing to
Yeah,
always
no,
think about.
absolutely. It's a fascinating process, because of course what we're doing as we're releasing these things, we're also raising our frequency, because we're letting go of all that toxicity in our body. So on a spiritual level, the cleansing and detox you're doing physically is also raising your frequency. So your life will start to change in other ways around you, because your body is holding more light. It has more capacity to be clean and clear and hold those higher frequencies. So the detoxing impact is profound in terms of this. But I think a lot of people who are on this journey, it's suggested that you have these colonics because you're holding all of that trauma and that old energy within your colon and in your gut. And when we have the colonics, we're actually letting go of all of that, which immediately helps you feel lighter. And it's not just because it's a physical sensation, it's a lightness of energy and frequency. So we're completely shifting and changing and letting go of we hold so much in that area, and when we do let go of that, it can massively shift how we feel.
Yeah, I mean the toxins and the stuff that's built up in your colon, it's mad once you, because I've had about, I don't know, it must be like 8 colonics at this point. And still every time I'm surprised at what actually comes out still, because you've done a colonic, fine, but actually no, it builds up and builds up. That's why it's not these fad diets, not these fad things where you do it and then you go back to just not caring. It has to be this lifelong commitment to yourself. And so we're working on the program at the moment, aren't we? And I'm just bringing it back to this simple aspect of, if you just think about food, it's like, well, just cut out the simple sugars, starches, carbohydrates, food that's processed, that's been manufactured, just coming back to really simple understanding that when you think about it, it makes so much sense. Like, has this food been handled by someone else and gone through machinery? How much life has this food got in it? And just really bringing it back to a simple aspect. And tuning into you. So for example, even what stimulants we're taking in our body, if your body needs to detox and cleanse and calm, so you're not in that cortisol and adrenaline, well, cutting out stimulants like coffee, alcohol, all those things, just to assist with that process.
Well, the interesting thing that I found with cutting out coffee is that I haven't had caffeine now for probably a few years, not intentionally anyway, but we all know that it has that stimulant effect, and it can give us that sort of energy boost. But what you don't realize is the negative impact of actually having those toxins in your body, and actually how it works on your emotional body. Because about a year or so ago, I asked for a decaf latte, and I actually got a caffeinated one by mistake and didn't know. And I was a different person. During the rest of that day, I was neurotic, I was panicky, I was anxious. And so it just goes to show how we have these things, but we become accustomed to them. And so we don't realize how much of an impact those toxins actually have on our emotional body, on our emotional well-being, and so many of us will just think that that's part of our normal daily routine and wonder why it is. We feel this anxiety, we feel this sort of negative emotions, and we think it's just part of life, but actually we're actually contributing that by what we're putting in our bodies. But we can become so accustomed to it over time that we don't notice. And when we become cleaner, those things start to become really obvious. When we have something like that, when we have actually completely cleared it, we notice the impact that it has, and it's on all levels. It makes you feel quite physically unwell, with like headaches and all of that sort of thing, where you feel the toxic buildup. But it's also you don't realize quite what an impact it has on your emotional well-being. So all of these things that we think that we're doing, we can be having sort of emotional issues with various different things, and things keep coming up for us on a daily basis. It's just generally how we get used to feeling, but we're not realizing how much we're contributing to it by what we're putting in our bodies.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's wonderful that people think it's a bit of a curse when you become you become more sensitive. Let's say if I go out for a meal and I can sense if something that I'm eating is not very good, and I actually find it hard to eat out, but actually it's not a bad thing, because I can tell if I'm consuming something that it's not serving me. And same, I had the experience with coffee. They accidentally gave me a caffeinated one time, and I was like, why am I so hot? Why am I feeling anxious? And and it was the coffee. It had that much of an effect on me. And like, even if I go out and I know the products, again, it's like, think of like simple sugars, simple carbohydrates, simple starches, all those things. If I have them, wow, I really do feel it in my body. And it's then that process, okay, well, I'm gonna have to just go through this kind of detox right now to feel good. So it becomes not worth it. That's what it gets to the point where you're like, it's not even worth putting that stuff into my body and feeling crap, because it's then like it takes over your
Physical.
day.
I think it's interesting the impact it has, because there are certain foods that I have, and it's okay to have, everything in moderation is fine. If you fancy having the chocolate and the cake or whatever it is you're going to have, it's not about saying you can't have that,
Yeah.
but it's just making sure that you don't have it all the time. But I know if I've had too much of something, I'll get palpitations.
Yeah.
So my body's become so sensitive to anything in anything that's not in alignment, that feels that my body doesn't like. It starts to have, it really shows up and tells me, it gives me those signs that that's not good. You need to just like, you need to really stop doing that, because it's not feeling good, and it can keep me awake and all sorts of different things. So like you're saying, you think that being sensitive is actually a negative thing because it brings those things up, but what does is it's an indicator of how much toxicity you could be building up if you didn't have the sensitivity. And quite often when you don't have the sensitivity, you don't realize your body becomes numbed to the expression of itself. It's so shut down that its feedback loop to you becomes you just can't hear it, you can't sense it, you can't feel it. Whereas I'm working now with Jade to become more sensitive in my body. It's part of what I really want to do, what I'm working on and looking at. But I already know that I've got quite a bit of sensitivity in terms of food intolerance. That if I have certain things, I know my body is telling me I don't like that. So I'm quite. I've definitely become much cleaner in what I'm eating. But I'm now just about to launch into the physical cleansing and cleansing the liver and doing all of those things, because I actually can feel. I'm really feeling and sensing that my body is overloaded with more toxins than is comfortable. And it just makes you feel that you're never quite on top form. You never quite feel 100% well. But you get used to it. You just guess you sort of start putting it down to, when I'm getting older, of course I'm going to feel like that. But I don't actually believe that's the case. I believe that the reason we feel like that because we're getting older is because of the buildup of toxins that we're holding. And we can feel as good at 60 as we did at 20 if we're looking after our bodies and we're moving them and we're getting rid of those toxins, and creating that flexibility and flushing that through is going to help us feel energetically different, because we're not holding on to that heaviness. And we can feel it then in our energetic bodies because we're feeling that heaviness within our energy field. So we just feel that sluggishness, and it builds up over time and it creeps up on you. And I don't actually believe that it has to.
No, and especially if you are doing the work that you're doing, anyone that's works with energy, you're gonna feel that. And it's kind of like you need to have those foundations to assist you with the work that you're doing. And I was just thinking about how, when we're having this congestion in our liver and having those build-up of toxins and we're not cleansing, then we're also having those physical symptoms that are manifesting in our body. So we live in that society where we're then having medication which is adding more toxins in our body, which our body is trying to fight against, and our liver is trying to let go of. So even acne, for example, you have like, is it Accutane or something, and they give you antibiotics. But actually, they're toxins in your body, which your body are going to be fighting against, and that's all going through your liver. And so even acne, they say it's like your liver, how congested your liver is contributing to that as well. So it's like we're not ever getting to the root cause. We're just adding more problem, fighting fire with fire.
Conventional medicine has a tendency to do is to suppress it, and then you're just creating another thing that's going to come up further down the line, because you're dealing with a very surface symptom and not going to the root cause. And this is with the work that Jade talks about. It's always about going to the root cause and clearing that, and then there's so much of an impact that happens as a result. And something that happened recently which really shows me this and how energetically it has a massive impact on us is that for some time I've been feeling like my journey of growth in terms of my spiritual growth had come to a bit of a block, and it wasn't really moving forwards. It had gone so far and it wasn't really moving forwards any further, and so many things can contribute to that. But I had a breathwork session with Jade, and the breathwork session I had with you afterwards, I really felt so much release. And I knew what it was all about. There's been quite a lot of trauma that I've dealt with it energetically, but I was still holding it in my physical body. And I was starting to find that I was having days where I was either very, very up and like very, very happy and everything was really good, but almost out of balance. And then the next day, completely out of the blue, I'd be on the floor, really not happy, feeling very uncomfortable about everything and not understanding why I was having these real ups and downs emotionally. And I said to Jade, okay, can you do a breathwork session for me? And it was the first time we'd actually done a one-to-one. I'd done stuff online with you where it was in groups, etc., but not necessarily one-to-one. And the impact that it had of the release of trauma And that is a toxin. We're holding that in our food. And I knew that that was actually building up in my physical body and was having an impact in my emotional body. So, well, once I did that and I cleared it, the relief and the release I had throughout that was so physical. And since then, we've been working quite a lot together. But my awareness and my understanding and my intuition is really expanding, and I believe it's expanding because of releasing the toxicity that was in my body on an emotional level through the breath had a phenomenal effect. I can't even begin to explain the impact that that's had. And I now feel like a block's been moved from my path. And I now, the more that I'm doing things and the more that I'm working with Jade and we're doing this stuff together, my intuition is massively expanding. And I completely believe that that is due to me working now on the physical body and actually clearing the toxicity of my physical body is expanding my spiritual and emotional. My spiritual growth has been massively impacted, and I'm feeling much more balanced emotionally. So
Mm.
I'm not having these ups and downs. I'm pretty stable. It's not to say that like what we were talking about last night is because we were specifically working on something, so it brings up a trigger. But I observed that without going into the trauma of it, going into the drama. And now today, I know I'm physically clearing it on a physical level because I was observing it energetically, let go of it energetically, and though it allows your body to let go of it, let go of it physically. So it's been profound. The understanding of needing the real need, especially if you're on this journey, to clear and cleanse the physical body is so important.
Yeah. And I feel like when I ever talk about it, I feel like it's such a, like, people are bored of hearing about it because it's a very marketed industry, isn't it, about cleansing and detoxing, but just having a conversation around it in a way that's different. And that's what we're trying to bring into this, like a different perspective of what this is. And like you said
Yeah.
there, like, I don't want people to think that, like, I don't eat chocolate or I don't eat I eat treats, I do have that, but it's all in balance. And the fact that I've done so much work with my liver, I've had colonics, I've done the cleanses, I know my body can support the detoxing even more, and get rid of those toxins. So and yeah, the breath work, just know that even you were cleansing on the energetic level, that trauma, even your body on a physical level, those toxins and the lymphatic drainage that you were assisting with that. I think that's why
Yeah.
some people, I know that I do, but a lot of people also really need a wee after, and it's like the longest wee you've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something.
Yeah, it has a lot on energy work because, of course, what I'm doing when I'm working, a large part of what I'm doing in the first place is clearing, and so I'm clearing the energetic field, and you can guarantee afterwards that everybody gets straight up and goes straight to straight
Yeah,
and has a massive wee. So it's your and the energy clearing automatically cleanses the body. It's actually clearing through on a physical level. So
through
it's all so
tears,
interconnected.
through sweat.
Yes.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
know all those things, like you come through tears, through yawning,
Mm,
through
mm,
the sweating. Yeah, it's just assisting your body. It's going, we are choosing to release right now, physically, emotionally,
yes.
energetically. Yeah, yeah,
Clearing for others, I feel in my body what I feel, and we were talking about this last night, and when we're clearing for others, um, I'm not holding on to it in my physical body. I'm actually allowing it to go through my heart and be transmuted, but also energetically, sometimes through the breath, because I will be yawning and I'll be burping, and it will be the energy that's clearing through me from somebody else. But it's actually it's a clearing that I actually assist with through my that comes through my body. So it's fascinating how this all energetically it works. But and the client will also be quite often yawning or crying or and again it's all of that is detoxing on a slightly different level, but it's all about the detoxing. And
yeah,
it's all coming to the physical. It has to come back to the physical because that's our filter. Right?
yeah,
It's what we've actually got to work with, so we can work on the energetic field, but it has to filter through the physical body. So if you're doing all the energy work and you're doing all of the development, but you're not connecting with your physical body, there's only so far you can go. There's always going to be a block because you have to bring it in with. We're here for to anchor in the light into our physical body so we can hold it. But if we're so full up with toxins, we can't hold that light, so we have to create the space. And that's as much about what we're putting in and eating as the energetic clearance as well. It's so interconnected. um So yeah,
Brilliant.
it's fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm looking forward to bringing this in a really cohesive way where people can understand that. And really, I suppose from this call, like I would kind of recommend from this, it's just start tuning into your body, and like, is there anything physically that's been manifested that you can go, wonder what that is? Could it be to do with my liver? It could be a manifestation of something emotionally. Just start to be really inquisitive and not coming from a place of judgment of yourself and being negative around it. It's like compassion, being like, okay, my body, how is my body feeling? You know, what am I experiencing? And I just feel like we're all so guided if we are receptive to wanting to feel good and make that change. And you know, lots of my journey have been like, I've just Googled something and suddenly all the answers come to me. It's like my whole journey. It's like when you choose to be in that space of like, I sense something isn't right and I want to change that, the answers will come to you for sure, because we are all guided along this process. And
I think the other thing is also being aware that sometimes a physical symptom can have an energetic root cause, and so don't always expect that the answer will come from a physical perspective. For example, if you've got a skin issue, it can actually be very, very connected to an emotional issue. It might not necessarily be about a physical toxin within your body. It actually could be that something needs to be released emotionally. So I used to have psoriasis in my 20s, and they say that psoriasis, once you've got it, you can't get rid of it. Well, I think doctors can't get rid of it with a topical treatment. That's true, but I shifted something energetically, and it completely disappeared overnight. So there's very much, I think, especially skin conditions, I think, can really show up and be very energetically connected. So it's about, if you can try the physical things, but if the physical things aren't working, then look at it from an energetic perspective as to why the symptom is showing up.
yeah.
It's about a process of elimination sometimes as to why something's happening.
Yeah, and that gets to be a journey where it's like you're not just finding one answer and be like, well, that didn't work, that's it. It's all go, okay, let me try this, let me try that, and just
Exactly.
indulge. I just say it's just
Yeah.
indulge in yourself so fully that you're just trying all these things. And yeah, it really is common sense when we think about it. Like, I really feel like we overcomplicate it, but if you bring it down to how our liver works, how our body works, how our emotions work, you know, what we're physically dealing with in this environment, where our food's coming from, it just all makes sense. And you're like, okay, it's a simple path. It gets to be simple. So yes.
Yeah, it's just being being open to the possibility of and playing with it, and just there's always a root cause, and everything that we do, whether it's clearing on an energetic level, when we're clearing a certain pattern of behavior, and we're cleansing and clearing that, it's usually that there's always a point of creation. Every single time there is a point of creation. And so we might be the natural inclination quite often in our society is to take an antidepressant or take something that's going to help us to feel better or go to counseling. But actually, quite often we're just cycling the symptom. What we're not doing is going back to the point of creation as to where it came from, and that might not even be in this lifetime. So everything is about the energetic clearing comes from, with regards to that, is actually looking for the root cause. And that can be, if it's something that you're into, it's like past life regression can actually take you back to the root cause of a certain physical symptom or an emotional symptom, and or a repeating pattern of behavior. And but so whether it's on an energetic level or a physical level, there's always a root cause. And so by treating the symptom, you're never going to get rid of anything. All you're going to do is suppress it, and it will come back in a different way. So whatever you're doing, always make sure you're looking for the root cause as to why it is that something is happening, rather than just trying to find a plaster to put over it, because the plasters are short-term fix, whereas looking for that root cause and like really going in deep is always going to be the thing that's going to shift and change it at a permanent level. So
Yeah. Okay. So I think
conversation.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think we probably spoke long enough there about that. But
I think we
yeah.
have, yes, absolutely. Um, so do you have any questions, Paulina, anything that we've talked about, or are you happy for us to sort of end the call? Oh, we
I'm
just need
happy.
to unmute you.
Yeah, I was admit. Yeah, I'm happy to end the call. It was obviously very interesting to listen. Lots of things I have done for example, like the I call it like smart choices. So because I had my journey with the fitness, and I ended up being a personal trainer and bodybuilding instructor, I do know about those food choices. So I always say, or I used to say, I spend more time reading the label rather than just being in actual shop, because this is all about these smart choices. Like, it's exactly what Jade said. Like, how is this going to make me feel afterwards? Like, it made me give me a little bit of pleasure, but then I know I've been working really hard for that, physically and mostly physically back then. And then, do I really want to, like, this? They call it like cheat day. They're absolutely nonsense. Like, they're good for mental. Like, okay, just keep me going, but you kind of like going backwards 3 days of what you've been working on. So I am familiar with all of that. But I have been sort of myself, I felt like I need to go on a deeper level of that cleansing. So not only the food choices or a drink or every day, but it's just more about like my thoughts, for example, like what's the level of them, my surroundings, my environment, people who I so I've made this decision ages ago. I'm not watching TV, I don't read news. Like, there's like, even like having a clean tidy house, it helps you on this. It's lots of factors. It's not just food and supplement, but it's a lot of things you surround yourself with. And I know, for example, I have a habit of before I do any work, I need to make sure my space is tidy. Like, I can't work in a mess. And that is probably because of the energy of, if I have a laundry or if I have pails or something, it's just not gonna, I'm gonna be focused on that. And I know sometimes it's a procrastination of actual work, but you know. So yeah, no, it was very interesting to hear all of that. And yeah, I will have some questions after the recordings.
Okay.
Well, the interesting that comes up there is also that, of course, when we are clearing on a physical level, on a personal level, of course, what we're doing is detoxing our environment as well, because things will fall away as we're raising our frequency. Things will naturally be let go of, and so we can also do it from the outside in, because as you're talking about there, Paulina, if your environment is cluttered, then you're going to it's going to have an impact on how you feel. And everything outside of us is a reflection of what's going on within us. So the more that we become clearer, the more that we're going to want to clear that physical environment, because it feels uncomfortable to be in a cluttered space. And so I've noticed that when you have somebody who's, for example, struggling with anxiety or mental health issues, or that their environment is usually very chaotic, because it's hard for them to actually see be able to sort of see the clarity through their external environment. But as they're getting better, this starts to shift as well. So it's a very definite impact of outside reflecting back what's going on inside. So it's absolutely true that when you're detoxing, it affects everything. It's physical, emotional, and external. So yeah, it's fascinating.
And you can start to, as well, like when you're on that path of wanting your environment to be clear and support you, then you pick things like, even like Himalayan salt lamps to filter the air, plants that will assist with detoxifying the air. So it's like you then choose the things in your environment that assist with that, which then we'll get to be all the fun things, what we put in our home to assist with that. Yeah, love that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Jade, for all of you have so much knowledge and wisdom around these subjects, because it's such a personal passion for you. So
I love it.
It's yeah, it's and you always, it's like, of anybody, you've always got such good skin, and it has obviously an impact on your quality of your hair, that it's like how your nails, all of those things, it's so important. And how you look healthy, and that glow of your skin, all of that shows through. And it's very clear that you spent a lot of time working on all of that, because it really shows up in how you show up. So, which is
yeah, it does. It shows up in every part of your being. And like, I think I'm really good at detecting that in people. Like, people sometimes have like a glow, or there's an element of them where I can kind of see like the the thing when they need to detox and cleanse, and so I get very passionate about that, and anyone wants to have a conversation, I'm always like, okay, yeah, here's all the things that you can do to support that, because yeah, it just shows through you. So yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and we will be back again next week. What are we talking about next week, Jade? Remind me.
Well, we're going to talk a bit more about an esoteric subject next week. So I think we're going to feel into that one, but it's going to be less on the wellness and the physical aspect and more of an esoteric one. And because there's so many topics, but we need to feel into that.
We've got so many topics to cover. And so, yeah, next week will be more of an esoteric one. So we'll work out what that one's going to look like. So we will come back to you with that. But have a wonderful week, and if you're joining us on the recording later, and we will see you again next week. Take care. Bye for now.